Okay, so before we look at four corners, let's look at that commencement. Are you asking about the substantial and insubstantial
Yes, basically.
in commencement? Okay, so this is always going to be helpful to talk about. So I don't want to make this sound like a squeaky wheel, but there is no step in Tai Chi, even the most simple of step left and commencement, where substantial, insubstantial, head suspended, the 10 important points, loose waist, all that stuff is happening even in something as simple as this, okay? So the advantage for you in that is that you can put that mindfulness into literally the very first step of your form. Whereas sometimes I think it happens where it's step left, now I start to do Tai Chi, where really Tai Chi starts here to here to here. So that's why if you have the time and the space, you take that moment to breathe, feel your feet on the floor, connect, think about, even though my feet are together, think about starting to engage that tuck, think about my head suspended, trying to tune out all the other static and noise. That's a luxury. We can't always do that. But in a perfect world, you're able to do that. And so what I'm going to do, you can go through it with me if you want. I'm going to tell you what my weight is doing between step left and commencement, because it's very active, even though it doesn't look like a whole lot's going on. So right now I feel both of my feet evenly distributed on the floor. And I'm taking a moment to feel all parts of my foot except for my arch, hopefully. Which, if it's fallen, talk to us. This should help in the long run, but you might need some orthotics. But I'm feeling my foot contacting the floor. Now, as I think about stepping left, I'm going to sink down. And as I sink down, I shift a little of the weight out of the left foot into that right foot. So now I'm at about 80-20, even though it looks like I'm still standing even. And then I'm going to load that up even more as I start to peel this foot up off the floor and then deliberately place it, ball, rest of the foot, and I shift that weight again to 50%. This time, even though I'm 50%, I really feel actively pressuring and pressed into the floor, rooted. To get to commencement, I'm going to shift that weight to the ball of my foot just a little bit, not lifting my heels, but I'm going to generate a little pulse, which shifts me forward just a little bit. And that forward is what ideally triggers the arms to begin to lift up. I still have my weight towards the front of my foot. Then I shift the weight back towards the heel, and that's what generates the momentum or the movement for the arms to come down.
Oh, this is all new.
Is that all new?
Yes, ma'am.
This is exactly what we were talking about that one day.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So let's try it again. So, feet feeling the floor. And if this is all we do today, this is a valid, helpful, important exercise because it will translate into all of the other steps that you take in your form. Feel both feet. You can't visibly see my body change, but I'm putting more weight, about 80%, into my right foot. That becomes 100% as I lift this foot up, peel it, set it deliberately, and then let it glue back down to the floor. So now I'm back to 50-50 with my feet engaged. Pressure the balls of the feet. I'm kind of you can see my little trigger here. I shift. That's what generates the movement upward of the arms. And then I shift back and I sink. And that's what lowers the hands to the side. Yeah? Again? Feel your feet. Pour a little bit more of that weight into the right foot so that you can peel up that left foot. Step and re-stick it to the ground. And transfer the weight of the feet a little bit to the front. Generates the upward movement. Shift it back to the heels, sink, lower the hands.
Oh, think I've ever heard that weight shift
A
as a
little
trigger.
bit, yeah.
So I don't think I'd heard that before.
I mean, and I can say that in this room as intermediate students and as someone who's trained many years in Chen style, without that turning into, you know, this big deliberate shift, lift up. It's just, it's play with this, like put your feet shoulder width apart, adhere them to the floor, and then practice, like you can shift the weight to different parts of the foot, even if your body is not moving. Here's an advanced Gohring tip. If you are starting to hate us in Embracing Horse and you think we have forgotten about you, you can. I am actively shifting ever so often the weight in my feet a little bit.
I'm gonna try that.
Right? It gives you, it resets the muscle burn a little bit. Because, you know, it's Gohring, I mean, Embracing Horse is not static. Even though you may seem static, it's very dynamic. I'm buoyant, but if you really like stick your feet to the floor and stick these knees, it's impossible and it's excruciating. I mean, it's just grinding things. So it's dynamic, including the feet. Now, we don't want to see this kind of stuff, but I'm here, I'm in my Embracing Horse, and like right now, I'm even, but right now, I shift the ball of the foot a little bit more on the edge of this foot. You know, you don't do it all the time, but like you kind of find a spot, and then I can kind of shift it a little bit. It gets you a little bit more dynamic buoyancy to it without having to come all the way out of your form. So, you know, your feet aren't stuck. Even if they're rooted, they're not stuck. So that kind of like, oh, that kind of applies to Embracing Horse. So let's do it again. From the beginning, we'll do that a couple times, and then I'll talk you through the same thing as we maybe try to board off right a little bit. And maybe left. So, here we are. Weight even. And I begin to pour a little more weight into this left as I sink down. That helps me pour that weight in there. Peel this foot off. Slowly step and glue it back down. And that lets me sink a little more. Now I'm going to push the weight towards the toes just a little bit. And that draws the arms up. The knees lift just a tiny bit. And I shift back and lower the hands. So from the side, hopefully what you'll see is a bit of a circle that happens there. So here, here, now there's a circle that happens. Did you see? It's just that little bit of an arc that happens there. Yes. So it isn't just my arms coming up and out. My arms are going up, and my body is bringing it back. The weight is here. The weight is here. So there's always that little bit of dynamism in the footwork in Tai Chi. So, now we're gonna take what we just talked about, and we're gonna look at it, the transition into four corners that we looked at the other day. So I'm gonna talk you through the arms, yes, but particularly the feet. So let's start at the end of single width. This is kind of an experiment, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to shift that, pour that weight, like shift it and kind of pour it into that back leg, lower your hands. And because all my weight is in that back foot, I'm going to be able to turn my front toes in, hopefully close to the front of the room. Now I'm going to shift that weight into that turned in toe, and I'm going to turn my waist so that my right hand folds over my left hand. I'm going to put more weight into that back leg so that I can turn out my front toes. Now, what's happening here is if I keep forcing this, my knee is going to do funky things and the back leg is not good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly pour the weight out of the back leg into the front leg, and as I do that, these toes should be able to turn more towards the mirror. So, and go. Yeah. So now, and incidentally, I flipped my hands over to here. So I should be about 70 now, 30. Now I'm gonna sink down, step in. So I'm 100% here, basically. Step out, again, peel, like just stick that foot, heel toe, shift to the left, don't turn yet. Keep shifting, now turn the waist, lift the hands, turn the right toes in. Perfect word to be an angle here, 12:45. Release. So let's just do that foot thing one more time. So start from single whip. Lower the hands and put that weight into that back leg so that you can turn your front toes in. Now, transfer that weight from that front foot into that back foot as you turn your waist so that your right hand comes over the left. More weight, like empty it more into that back leg so I can turn the front toes out. When I can't turn them out anymore, really switch the weight from the back foot to the front foot so that I can turn the toes more. And I'm grounded and rooted here. And I flipped my hands. Sink down, step in. Do not turn as you step. Step, heel, toe. Shift, don't turn. Shift, don't turn. Begin to turn and lift. Release. We'll keep working on four corners, but hopefully that, just even that talk about commencement will help inform how you manage the weight from foot to foot in these complicated moves where you're turning and having to switch weight and turn toes way out. It's the insubstantial and substantial that permits the ability to turn those toes out. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Any last questions before we bow out? And yes.
Last night, with the hand, I
Uh-huh.
noticed senior head instructor Fig was like this. This arm was out here. Opposed to-
Actually, he was holding a baby this way.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, so you hear, we heard his T, you heard his baby, it's, this is one of those where you don't want the transition, the transitory nature of how you get from point A to point B to become a move. But, so from here, you know, am I holding a baby or am I making a T? It's the same,
Okay,
does that make sense?
yes ma'am.
But what we're trying to accommodate is, I'm here, how do I get from here to here? So with more of a yang idea, it's going to feel more like holding a baby. But if you're looking at it two-dimensionally, it's making a T with the hands. So they're both right. But I'm glad you said that.
It's kind of a load up, is the here.
Yes,
So
absolutely. So because I'm here, and then basically it's a block push. Yep. So we'll keep working on it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good class.
Head instructor?
Bow to intermediate and beginner level students. Students at home, master's class training is dismissed.